We are Heather and Paul Christie.
And for over 12 years, we've worked with executives and entrepreneurs to accelerate change in every aspect of their business.
Because we are in the fastest paced business environment that anyone has ever seen before.
So join us for the Evolve to Win show. Good morning and welcome to another Evolve to Win show with Heather and Paul. Happy to be with you again. It's been kind of a while.
It's been a little while because we have been away the last 2 Mondays. One was Labor Day weekend and one we were in Cuba.
So we went to Cuba and there is really no internet there whatsoever.
Yeah, we can get on for you there. But anyway, great to be here with you. Today we are talking about why time blocking doesn't work. It is probably the single most recognized tool for productivity is time blocking. And we're going to go through and talk to you about in practice why it's not working. And the first thing I'm going to do, though, is start by explaining what time blocking is for those of you who are not already using this fantastic tool. So time blocking is really, really about prioritizing, right? It's about taking the time to sit down, think through what are your priorities? What is the most important things that you need to accomplish in a day? And what happens is if you're doing time blocking right, you should have time on your calendar every single day to sit down and plan your day, because we know that if you don't plan your day, what happens?
I don't know what happens, Heather.
What if you don't plan your day? Like anything can happen.
Right.
Right? Like whatever comes up, you get in the urgency and the busyness of the day. And we're in business, not busyness, right? So, yeah. So I want to just talk to you about some very practical feedback that we've gotten from clients as to why the time blocking is not working. First of all, I want you to ask yourself the question whether or not it would be valuable for you to have uninterrupted time to work on your priorities, to focus on working on the business, not just in the business. And the reality
so what does on the business look like?
So on the business is working on anything that is important for you to move forward, come closer to your goals, but it's typically not the kinds of tasks that are just urgent and require attention.
Mm-hmm.
So what we know, and if you've ever read Stephen Covey's series of books, the 7 Habits book, he talks about it. He also talks about it in one of his earlier books, which will come to me in a minute, which is really good. That we as human beings, we tend to focus on what's urgent rather than what's important. So things that have to be done and have to be done now. But the thing about these urgencies that we focus on is that they have expanded over time because of technology. So email has now become urgent, and yet how much of your email is so not important for you? So what do most people do first thing in the morning? They get into their office, they turn on their computer, and they start going through their email, which is filled with other people's urgencies,
right,
maybe other people's importance, but that's probably the worst thing you could do. The first thing you should do is sit down by yourself, grab your cup of coffee, and actually focus on going through a list of your priorities for the day. So I do this in the form of what?
Got it. So we do a daily huddle. That's part of our planning process. And so we block about 10 to 15 minutes a day to just go over the priorities, because my behavioral style, I need to have the top 2 or 3 things that I need to do during that day. And so projects to work on, things to prepare for. And so if I don't really have those, it's difficult for me. I like to collaborate as well. So there's a lot of people that may be in your organization that like to collaborate, and they need some leadership. They need to kind of be told what to do. What are the next steps? So it really helps me to get organized. So that is when it works really well.
Mm-hmm.
When it doesn't work really well is when we have it scheduled and then we don't have that meeting.
Yes. So this is the key. Why time blocking doesn't work is when you're not using the time you've blocked to do what you say you're going to do. And it happens all the time. It seems so simple. It really seems so simple, but it's a big challenge. So I have clients who really buy into the concept of time blocking, and they know how valuable it would be to really get focused on their priorities and take some time to plan. And yet they'll put it in their calendar, and then they'll get a call from a client and they'll take that call. Or they will have somebody show up at their door. Hey, do you got a second? And they'll meet with whoever's at their door. And I hear from people all the time the excuse that, well, I have an open door policy. So actually, even though I've set aside this time as important time, if something comes up, I'm likely to get pulled away. And that's not a good answer. And here's why. When you block your time to focus on your priorities, you've got to set some rules around blocking that time. You have to treat it as though you're meeting with your most important client, which is, by the way, you.
Yeah.
Right. And, you were talking about how valuable it is for you and your behavioral style to block this time and spend time going over priorities. For me, it's equally as important. And yet I've got a really bad habit of pushing it off because I'm constantly in go mode. So it's hard for me to take the time to sit down, push everything else aside because I'm all about doing and working on results. So,
right. So it's good for you to
people,
slow down as well.
It's mandatory. It's absolutely mandatory.
Well, and especially with how fast you move, that you really need to have people that are there that can support you. Mm-hmm. And because you're kind of the tornado hurricane going on, that you need people to kind of pick up kind of the scraps and organize things and plan things for you. And if you don't stop long enough to do that, then it just keeps going.
That's
and
right.
then the mess just keeps getting bigger.
Well, and here's a symptom that time blocking is not working for you. The symptom is this. I'm so busy. I'm like a firefighter. All I'm ever doing is I'm putting out fires. I'm always in reactive mode. I'm never in proactive mode. If you say any of those things to anyone, that's a symptom that you're not effectively using time blocking. So what would effective use of time blocking look like? First and foremost, it's starting with the intention. When you put the block of time in your calendar, you're realistic about where you're blocking, and that block of time becomes sacred. That block of time becomes there. There are very few, like someone's got to be bleeding to pull me away from that block of time. It's got to be a truly defined emergency. And I want you to think about this. Imagine that you're in a meeting with your most important client. If some other client calls, are you going to stop that meeting? You would never do that. If someone shows up at your door, are you going to tell your client, oh, hold on a minute, I've got someone standing at my door? You'd never do it. So you have to treat that with the intention of the most important meeting, and you have to make the commitment that you're going to stick to it, right?
Right.
So first of all, there should be a daily time block for just going over and making sure that you plan your day. There should be some time blocked at the end of the day to do a quick review and get yourself focused on what needs to be done the following day. These are very, very short blocks of time. The end of the day can be 5 minutes to just review what you've accomplished and what needs to go on in the next day.
Yeah, and also another simple blocking of time is for if you have an event that you're going to make sure that you block the travel time, because a lot of people won't plug that in there.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, either something gets booked around that time or they just, don't make the time for the travel.
Yes. So we've gotten really good at booking that travel time on the bookends. And I don't know about you guys, but we use a calendar system, which has saved us, oh my gosh, so much headache trying to go back and forth with people to find times on a schedule. So we happen to use Schedule Once, and that's the system we've found to work for us.
Yeah, and there's many different ones. There's Time Trade, there's
Calendly,
there's things like that. Calendly's pretty good because there's a free version of it. So if you're looking for just a simple way for people to book online for you, it's really good. So try that out.
And so especially if you have one of those online schedulers, it becomes that much more important that you're actually in your calendar blocking your time for your productive tasks.
Yeah.
So I'll give you one other quick example. We have a lot of travel coming up in the end of September and into October. And so in preparation for all of these client meetings, there's so many moving pieces. So when we get together and we do our daily meetings, we will look out at the calendar for a week and sometimes a month to make sure that we're backing in all the different activities, that we're actually plugging into the calendar the preparation work. And what's so valuable about that is that we're taking what's in our head and we're putting it down into paper, and we're actually creating a time, we're making space to get the most important things done so that we don't feel like we're in a constant fire drill, which is really, quite frankly, how it feels when we screw all that up, right? If we don't do what we say we're going to do. So number one reason that time blocking doesn't work is if you're not doing it, clearly, right? So you got to do it. Number two reason time blocking doesn't work, you put the block in your calendar and then you make something else more important than your block of time. So it's just about the rules that you create for yourself. Make sure when you put that time in your calendar, you set that aside for you, that you honor it, that you honor that as the most important meeting of your day. And, close your door, put the do not disturb sign out, position it with the people around you so that they understand that there are parts of your day that just shouldn't be interrupted. That's all I got for you today.
That's good.
All right. Well, I'd love to hear your feedback on how time blocking works for you. If it's working really well, what are you doing? What are your rules? If it's not working, a new commitment to start doing it again. It really is the single best productivity tool that we've ever used.
Awesome. Well, have a great day and a great week. And thank you for joining us on another Evolve to Win show.